Call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission together. We have a quorum, all 7 of us here. And now it's for the introduction of the agenda and format of the hearing, and turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will start with the call to order, followed by a staff report. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to make their presentation. Afterwards, public comments will be open. Please state support or opposition, as well as your name for the record, and please be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. Afterwards, the commission and staff will have their discussion, and the commission will then vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. City Council's consideration of tonight's zoning change will be on the Monday, March 16th, 2026 agenda. Looking at the consent agenda for tonight, we have excused absences from the previous Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, as well as approval of the regular meeting minutes from that last meeting. And tonight on new business, we have a zoning change request from Plan Development to Plan Development, replacing the previous Promenade Shops Lifestyle Center PD with a new mixed-use Plan Development. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Katja. All right, I'll entertain a motion and a second for approval of minutes.
Commissioner Haskins, motion to approve.
Consent agenda, yes.
Commissioner Fortes, I'll second the motion to approve the consent agenda.
All righty, seeing that we have that, anybody have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign, passes 7-0. There were no items removed from consent agenda. New business, consideration and possible action zone change application, ZON 2025-0569. Public hearing, a request by Planned Community Developers V. Ltd., applicant on behalf of Pearland Lifestyle Center LP, owner, for approval of a zone change from planned development to PD, replacing the previous Promenade Shops Lifestyle Center PD with a new mixed-use PD on 119.1069 acres of land located at south of the Sam Houston Tollway, west of the State Highway 288, Pearland, Texas. All right, that takes us to staff's report. Oh, need a motion and a second.
Commissioner Eccles, so moved.
Commissioner Fortes, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now we take it to you, Katja.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, the applicant is proposing a mixed-use development called The Orchard at Lower Kirby with a base zoning of General Business GB, as well as Townhouse Residential TH District. The plan development introduces 3 districts: high-density single-family residential, mixed-use commercial district, waterfront entertainment mixed-use, and a flex district that allows for any of the described districts. Each of the districts has tailored standards and area regulations, parking, facade, building, signage, open space, and landscaping, with a vision to create a pedestrian-oriented urban center where residents and guests can live, work, play, stay, and shop. As of today, we have received 0 written comments or phone calls regarding this request. A legal ad was posted in the Pearland News Reporter, and public notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet, and a notification sign was placed on the applicant's property. Looking at surrounding land uses, we have undeveloped land as well as the Ivy District to the south, restaurant, hotel and church across State Highway 288, and then we have manufacturing to the west. The future land use plan has this area designated as both town center and professional services. And the history of this site is that it was annexed into the city of Pearland in 1999, and the Promenade Shops at Shadow Creek Plan Development was approved in September of 2005, and an amendment was adopted in December of 2006. The Bass Pro Shop is currently developed there and was developed between 2007 and 2008. The parcel is currently platted, and a joint workshop for this request was held on November 17th, 2025. And before I get started on really introducing this plan development, I did want to state for the commission and the people watching at home and in the audience today that the applicant does have a presentation tonight that is detailed and really dives into their proposal. And with that, staff is simply going to be providing a high-level introduction to the plan development, as the applicant again has this very detailed presentation ahead of us. And so with that, introducing the chapters within the plan development document that's in your packet posted online, we can start with Chapter 1, the introduction. It really introduces the plan development as the orchard at Lower Kirby, as well as defining the location in Harris County and where it's placed in the city of Pearland, noting how many acres, as well as identifying that this plan does align with the comprehensive plan, the Lower Kirby Urban Center Master Plan, as well as the Pearland Prosperity Strategic Plan and the Parks Master Plan. Chapter 2 is the administration chapter, talking about the development process as well as deviations, comparing minor versus major deviations and what approval looks like. Minor deviation, for example, is in-house review and approval. Major deviations will be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as City Council for approval. In addition to talking about management districts and having a property owner association established. Chapter 3 is a big chapter in this plan development, talking about zoning and land uses, introducing the districts as well as streets, project phasing, block and lot standards, as well as the use table, what's allowed by right, what's allowed by conditional use permit, and parking and loading. Next, Chapter 4, again, another big chapter really focusing on the building, layout, design, materials, screening, parking lot screening and structure design, as well as the landscaping requirement for the plan development, open space requirements, as well as lighting and utilities. Chapter 5 focuses on streets, streetscape, and street trees, as well as signage in Chapter 6, identifying street trees, permitted and prohibited signs, and overall having a master signage plan. And finally, wrapping up with Chapter 7 being our definitions. There are certain definitions within this plan development that may not be within our current Unified Development Code, or some certain text words are different from the Unified Development Code, and so just identifying some of those words that are used within this development is important. Looking at the comprehensive land use plan as well as the thoroughfare plan, Unified Development Code, and the utilities, this property and the plan development conforms to all of those criteria, as well as the criteria for looking and approving at a zoning change. And with that, staff found that the requested plan development met the established criteria for approval of a zone change, and if approved, the site will need to be designed and compliant with the plan development and the UDC requirements for the GB and TH zoning districts, as well as the corridor overlay district and other applicable codes such as building and fire. The proposed PD is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and the surrounding zoning and land uses, and overall staff recommends approval of the proposed zone change to the plan development district. Staff does encourage discussion between the commissioners regarding the zoning districts and the concept plan, as well as the PD amendment and deviation language, phasing plan, high-density single-family product types, and the design plan. And that concludes staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Katja. All right, that brings us to the applicant's presentation. I'm assuming y'all got one. Take the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. My name is Don Jansen with Planning Community Developers, and my address is 3915 Wood Hollow Court in Sugar Land, Texas. So, good afternoon, and Chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, city leadership, and staff. On behalf of the PCD team, we appreciate the opportunity to once again share our new vision for our incredible site in Pearland. I'd like to say how much we appreciate the cooperation demonstrated by city leadership and staff and the EDC team. We realize we can do nothing without your input, direction, and concurrence, so we look forward to working with you all. So our presentation team tonight includes Wendy Lewis Buckley, who's with PCD, and me, and then with TBG, Blake Coleman and Rob Parsons. In restating what we said last November in our workshop, our team recognizes that we are coming to Pearland, which is your city. We want this project to reflect the vision set out by the Pearland leadership team and be respectful of those who have come before us. Each and every part of this plan needs to benefit this community first and foremost. Our objective is to take advantage of a rapidly growing Pearland region and add value where possible. So before we present our vision and plan, I'd like to recap the prior development attempts associated with this property. Two prominent developers over a 20-year period have tried to develop this property. Unfortunately, the property is in the same condition since 2007 when Bass Pro moved in. The reason the prior two developers failed had nothing to do with their development capabilities, each including a very extensive development track record. It had to do mostly with uncontrollable market conditions like interest rates, construction costs, competition, and then a changing marketplace for the tenants and the prospects they were attracting. Unfortunately, we faced the same uncontrollable market conditions. With all those headwinds facing us, the obvious question is, so why are you pursuing this project? Well, we feel like that there are significant changes and fundamentals that have occurred in Pearland over the past 20 years. The significant growth within the Pearland region is not just the numbers, but the quality of those residents and businesses. Job growth-wise, which is the most important type of growth to this project, evidence of the life science and biotech medical influence from the Texas Medical Center is seen in the Lonza, Milars, Merit Medical, and Abbott Manufacturing and Research facilities, along with core businesses such as Indris Hauser, Mitsubishi, and Dover Energy. Another one is with no Class A office currently in Pearland, there's a huge void in the market. The flight to quality will result in demand for Class A space supported by a conference center, hotel, residential, and restaurants. This will be filled by Texas Medical Center related companies or just current office users in Pearland who would like to have, thank you very much, appreciate it. I would have had that in just a minute because I wouldn't have been able to see what I was trying to read, but thank you. So with the growth in the workforce, Pearland now has a better chance to attract and support the next tier of retail and office users, which the prior two developers did not have. The proximity to the Texas Medical Center, Hobby Airport, and downtown Houston. Our mixed-use project with its amenities and placemaking opportunities will add to the extensive list of reasons why major corporate headquarters, which is going to be very important to our project, and regional office users in general will now consider Pearland. So when investors and lenders agree to move forward with us, they need the assurance that our development plan can pivot and adapt to these changing market conditions in a timely fashion. Even with the adaptability of what is incorporated into the PD plan, there's a chance we'll be back in front of this body with a unique request. After doing this for 40 years, there's no way to know everything before you own the property. To be successful in the long-term development of this property will require a strong, close working relationship with the city, county, ISD, chamber, and most importantly, the community. I can't emphasize enough the importance of community support. Our success as a developer over the past 40 years is through community engagement and having them involved in the project from day one. We started this process last week by meeting with the Chamber Board and will continue with other organizations and groups. In real estate, timing is everything. Even now for us, we have a specific due diligence period ending in April with a close proposed in May or June. Our team is having to make decisions based on certain assumptions, many of which will be decided by Planning and Zoning and City Council. I say this to help you better understand why our PD application involves providing our development team the capability of adapting and changing to unforeseen market conditions in a timely fashion. In every decision going forward, if you included the typical 6 to 8 month process, there's no way we would be able to react quickly enough to respond to our prospects. So now I'll start the actual. So the key topics we're going to go through are the role of the master developer, alignment with goals of the city, project vision, a day in the life, which is actually how this project will work on a day-to-day basis and how people enjoy it, and then envisioning the future. So our role as master developer is to plan, entitle, and develop large-scale, in this case, large-scale multi-phase real estate projects. We act as the conductor for the entire development. We prepare the raw land with infrastructure, which is mostly road and utilities, and sell serviced parcels to subdevelopers or builders while retaining control over the overall visions, quality, and design standards. So where are we in the process? Currently, site selection, we're under contract. Concept planning has been done. Now we're in the entitlement phase. Once the entitlements are there, we're going to secure the initial commitments necessary to be able to get our financing and close, which is the final acquisition. This is kind of a funny slide, I get that. But so what we're doing here is really juggling a bunch of puzzle pieces. And if you look at all the uses that are there, from a hotel conference center to an event space, multifamily, retail, grocery, food and beverage, public realm, office, entertainment, medical, where do these all go? But they're all necessary uses that add to the overall success of our project. Our goal in this is to, within the individual nodes of the project, organize those, create these transitional elements so that they all are very cohesive in the way they fit together. So Blake Coleman with TBG is going to come up and talk about vision and project.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, so to get started on this piece of the talk tonight, we wanted to just put before you again what we shared last time in regards to how we're thinking about this project.
1 second, please. State your name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Each person that speaks, just so we can get it on the record.
Sure. My name is Blake Coleman. I live at 3327 Ivy Mill Lane in Missouri City, Texas. Good. All right. So as we started the endeavor of planning this project and looking at design and how it would start to come to fruition and taking all these puzzle pieces that Don mentioned and starting to knit them together, we really started with the Pearland Prosperity Plan. And that was our go-by, if you will, to really start to listen and weave what the city's already done and what the city's ambitions are. And city staff has been tremendously helpful in this design process as we've started to look at what that looks like. I think there was multiple things that we looked at that could be achieved and realized in this development, from cultural arts to places to gather, parks and recreations, mobility and infrastructure. A lot of what's already been conceived we see happening in our plan. These were just a few. I won't go into them in too much detail, but some of the ones that we really think there's a tremendous opportunity to realize within the development. So when we talk about project vision, in a lot of ways, it starts with the name. And so the name is really just an embodiment of how we're thinking about this project in terms of it really being responsive to the character of Pearland, the history of Pearland, and feeling like it's of the place, but at the same time bringing in sophisticated amenities and a very a much needed destination, if you will, that incorporates a lot of different uses in a cohesive way. But doing so not in a way that feels foreign to Pearland, but very responsive to the people that come here, the people that live here, and kind of the ideals of this community. And so some of the words that we started to think about and talk about in terms of what we wanted this development to look like are up here on the screen. Things like vibrant and connected, green space, nature. Nature has been a consistent theme throughout the design process of how are we leveraging Clear Creek, the trail system, all the great things and amenities that the district has already put underway, but also creating a sense of urbanity and sense of higher scale, higher fit and finish throughout the project, and creating this really inviting, energetic atmosphere. So this is our design plan, and again, as Don mentioned with the puzzle pieces, this is a vision of how we see the plan starting to come together, but a lot of those puzzle pieces still remain to be determined with regards to how the market will influence different development. But I think we all started to really gravitate towards this plan and feel like this is starting to point us into a direction that starts to pull the vision and a lot of these guiding principles together. We'll go through each one of these areas in more detail, but things like all how we're responding to the different physical things that are driving the plan. We have a lot of different conditions, a lot of different adjacencies, as you know. How we respond to the frontage is obviously going to be different to how we treat the internal aspects of the project. We obviously have an existing retail center around Bass Pro, so part of the plan really wants to infuse and energize, make that more of the heart of the project that we'll talk about, the waterfront district that also integrates the hotel and conference center, and then all the rooftops that support that. I think we have 1,400 units in the plan currently, and so that's part of what we believe will make this successful is people living there who will populate these retail centers and activate the space, animate the space, and then obviously you can see the amount of green and everything that weaves everything together and ties it back to the overall framework of the overall Lower Kirby district. And there's a few things that we really think that are going to make this plan successful in terms of realizing the vision that we've set forward. One is the streets, and this is just a diagram of the different street types that we have, the typologies that we have. And when we talk about streets, we're not talking about roads. We want them to move cars, but that's really not their primary function. A lot of the functionality of this is really making cars slow down and prioritizing pedestrians with wider sidewalks, shaded tree groves, and things along those lines. One thing we've also discussed in the past as well is the reroute of the major thoroughfare plan from North Spectrum, rather than having that continue through our site, rerouting that to the south. Again, just to encourage less cut-through traffic, less more pedestrian focus. And then again, the parks and open space. So this is a diagram showing some of the larger parks that we have. This doesn't show all the green space. This is just the dedicated reserves and that we'll see throughout the plan. You can see the large pond area associated with Bass Pro and the waterfront district, as well as the existing detention. And all of these large open spaces are connected through larger trails, ranging from 10 feet along our major spine paths down to 5 feet. And this diagrammatically, and sorry for the confusion if the plan's rotated with north up on this diagram, but really we did this early on just to really communicate the big idea that we want to create this seamless connection from Clear Creek, all the great amenities and the trail systems that exist along Clear Creek and the adjacent spine paths that the district's already developed to the west, and really start to bring those into the heart of the project. That would be the waterfront area. And these are just some images that start to evoke the character of how we're envisioning the spaces, where it's all about walkability. It's all about people. It's all about animating these spaces, connecting different uses, so that the whole experience, the whole project feels interconnected and seamless from a pedestrian standpoint. We also started thinking about it just from a character standpoint, and what would this place really feel like? What would the architecture and the setting be like? You can see from the imagery, we really started to gain a lot of inspiration from the coastal architecture. Being kind of the gateway to the Bay Area. I think this also has an opportunity to feel with a little bit of that character brought in. I think we also want to invoke kind of a feeling of relaxed, that you've arrived, that it's welcoming, that it's not too sterile or even something that could be replicated somewhere else, but very much of Pearland. And in the end, we hope that we get something like this, where you can see the amount of variety in the plan. You can see the scale that's addressing more of a pedestrian scale with lower single-story buildings that create this village in the center, and then the supporting uses that work around it, from ranging from family to retail, all the different uses, component uses that start to feed into and energize the district, while at the same time complementing the existing Bass Pro development.
Thank you. Rob Parsons, 1212 Wilderness Drive, Austin, Texas. We're going to go into the zoning plan, and this illustrates the several districts that Katya had explained earlier. We have the Waterfront Entertainment District there in orange, the mixed-use commercial in pink, and the Flex District in purple. Notice the Flex District, as described, can be any of the 3 districts, the third one being the high-density single-family. So this document is with framework by which the PD standards get applied to the site. And so those standards for each one of these districts, this attaches it to the physical place. And now Don will go into a little bit more detail on what each one of these describe.
We're going to start with the high-density single-family residential district. So what this shows is the plan where it has the individual lots kind of at the bottom right corner of this, which when you look at this at a glance, you would say this looks like a bunch of just single-family lots. I mean, I don't see a lot of high density. So this is just the concept plan. So there'll be a combination of many of these lots, whether they're a duplex, whether they're a townhome of 6, it could be brownstones, it could be live-work units, duets. So there's a lot of combinations of this, but all this does is put a bunch of lots on a piece of paper. The products that you see on the right-hand side, there are 3 opportunities here that we think can be incorporated into this. The top right is townhomes. The middle is more of an urban home setting with very 6-foot separations between the lots. And the bottom right is our live-work units. So what this shows is townhomes with a mews in the middle of it. And what's interesting is the mews actually in the high-density in that area is actually going to be where all the utilities are. So we're going to have to work with staff on where these trees are located. It's a really pretty picture, but when you've got utilities there, we're going to have to figure out a different arrangement for the trees. But I think this allows the green space to enter in, and you don't see utilities. You see small front yards based on easements, and we're working through street sections and different setback requirements for this. But very small front yards, but a lot of green space that would be just in front of your home. This one shows a collection of all different types of houses. Top left and in the middle of the top would be urban homes. To the right, those are townhomes. Just below that is townhome. To the left of that could actually be multiple types. It could be a 6-plex. Here shown is more of a townhome type. On the left is an urban home. The very bottom left are brownstones. In the middle, once again, those are live-work units. And to the right, those are duets. This shows how kind of the relationship, more of the sense of how trails impact, how there's a front yard, but it's really connected to the community, where traditional neighborhood, you have a much larger front yard, so you're kind of disconnected from the sidewalk is in front. You're going to walk out your front door and you're going to be engaging people who are running by, walking by. It could be a porch on the front, but I mean, it's really meant to be a more engaging, vibrant, interactive community. The bottom middle, I love that photo of kids playing out on the mews with the homes facing. The majority of the homes will face the mews or streets. There will be some rear load, but it's going to be minimal, and those are more on alleys where you really don't have it's the only public street coming in, so you have no other choice. And then I think Blake's going to come up and talk about product mix.
Yeah, we wanted to include this just to give a little bit more color to how we're seeing the high-density single-family coming together. And when we say that, I think there's a the first impression a lot of times is it's going to be all of one type, or we're gonna land on a product type and then repeat it throughout the community. And that's really not what we're trying to do. I think that is a lot of what you see in new suburban developments. However, here we're really trying to push the edge in regards to how can we diversify and add more interest throughout the single family area, whether it's townhomes or duets or cottage, really trying to diversify each block. So this is just an example of another plan that we've worked on where we've integrated those different product types, and so it ranges even block by block how these things might come together. Some are alley loaded. Those are primarily what's shown in the plan, but not everything. And then you see the diversity that you get just within a block. So I think it's one way for us to not only create more flexibility in terms of how the plan gets absorbed, we can respond to the market, but also just a lot more interest. It doesn't have to all be the same homogeneous thing throughout the single family area. This is another example of this, just at a larger scale, a project called Stapleton. You may be familiar with it in Denver. But they employed this very successfully, and what you get at the end of the day is a very just rich, interesting community. It doesn't look at all like a typical suburban community would, where everything's the same, or you have a pod of 60s or 70s, or everything's segregated by the product or lot size. It's very interwoven, and it feels like much more like an authentic city that evolved over time. Talking about this one.
Now we're going to get into the commercial parts of this. So this is what you're, sorry, he's taller than me. This is the area that fronts 288 and starts getting into more the mixed use component. This would show more of a traditional shopping center across the front, if you would, of 288. You can start seeing how the residents are immediately behind that. And this will be a collection of, at the top right with the photo, that's more of an in-cap restaurant type with outdoor dining. The middle, which one of the things that we're really focused on here is bringing the entertainment, whether it be family or adult entertainment. Not adult, but you know what I mean by adult. Yeah. Anyway, so this is actually PopStroke, and it shows how you can kind of have this really cool entertainment area, and it's a specific user that's related to golf. And then the bottom right is actually we took the name off, but it's a grocer. That's a small grocer, Trader Joe's. But we're not sure if we can get it or not. We're trying. We're also attempting to get a Whole Food. Now, they turned us down just the other day. Unfortunately, they said we put a pause on the south. We just found this out, which was kind of disappointing. But they said, don't give up on us. So when we did the project that's the Whole Food Shopping Center at the corner of 6th and Highway 59. It took us 13 years to get the Whole Foods. Now, we're not going to wait that long here, I don't think. But the point was, that was the first suburban store. So we've got a great track record with them. It's been their most successful suburban store. And what we're proposing here is very similar to that. We have the same type of housing behind it in Lake Point. It's the high density housing. We have a town square across the street from it, which is similar to our WEMU area. So I think we're trying to use some of those parallels in our history with them to attract them. So these are ideas of what we call more of a neighborhood shopping center look. And these call them mid-size anchors. Top left, which is, once again, with entertainment, we're really trying to stress fitness. Club Studio is someone we've spoken with, and it's a little higher end type of fitness. Kind of the diagonal pictures where you can see Castle Dental, and then to the left of that, bottom below Club Studio, those are actually part of a center we developed called Market at Town Center. And it starts giving you a flavor for what the buildings can look like, because we don't want it to be just a typical shopping center with a little bit higher end. But what's interesting about where this is located, in Sugar Land, we have the 32-acre town center, Sugar Land Town Square development, which is at the corner of 6th and 59. Immediately adjacent to that is this shopping center, and then to the west of that is First Colony Mall. So they're actually, these fit really well together, even though you could say the WEMU is going to be a little higher end. There's a transition between the two, and they actually complement. And then the bottom right is that grocer that we talked about. These are more getting into more end cap or villagey type retail, like what you say at the top right, Midnight Grill. So that's just in a little setting where you might have the end of a shopping center and then a retail space that sits out with a little open area, green space where kids can play, or you can sometimes have outdoor dining there. And then the others are just pictures of smaller buildings. We really like the building that's the bottom middle. We think the character of that building just looks really cool and could fit well in Pearland. And then the Mod Pizza at the bottom right. Once again, just how you look, how you treat it. There's so many ways to design that. As we transition to the waterfront, on the left, you can see the plan itself, the focus, and I know it's not approved yet, but we're really pushing that the Hotel Conference Center be something that drives and anchors this project. To the bottom right of that is office with an associated parking garage. And the parking garage would actually have a sky bridge that would connect from the garage to the hotel and the office. The bottom left of that is a wrap product, multifamily, obviously Bass Pro. But I think what you can start seeing here is where Bass Pro's rear entry has just been that. I mean, they've been storing things back there. Well, they're very excited about our project, saying, well, we're going to open up that rear entry. We're going to move all the equipment and all the boxes we have stored back there, because they've turned a blind eye to it. And they really feel like this is going to drive more and more people to their store and help with their sales. In front of the hotel conference room is really what we call the gathering space, or the Central Park, which has kind of a villagey concept with smaller buildings and some larger buildings that surround that. Potentially, once again, this is conceptual. If we have a very strong interest in the office, you can see one office building here, that's 6-story or 8-story. Well, if we have a lot of interest in this project, you can see a second office building that would flank and actually become a part of that inner portion with the retail at the base, maybe an end cap that would have a restaurant. So there are so many different ways that this can take shapes based on the market demand, and we don't know yet. The pictures on the right start talking about the gathering spaces and how there's water features and outdoor dining. And the middle one, there's the bigger area to the right, and you've got a building on the left, which is retail. In the background, there's probably either multifamily or office. And then the bottom is more or less the base of an office building looking out onto the main plaza. So what this does, this starts bringing into reality. I know it's a rendering, not a picture, but the focal point of that is the Conference Center Hotel. In front of that, there's going to be a small retail building that will support what is more the park area. And to the right of that actually has a water feature. To the left of that, along that tree line with a street is with cars parked along the street is actually brownstones. On the bottom right are additional brownstones. In the background, you can see office buildings rising up above, as well as multifamily. So this starts to give you a sense of kind of what this looks like when all these pieces come together and how they work. This is a focus from more the south looking to the north. So what you see on the bottom left is kind of the top of an office building. To the left of that in the background is the Conference Center Hotel. You can see the Central Plaza with the village concept with the different buildings that would face the plaza and activate the plaza. And then you can see the water just to the north of that with restaurants or retail that would face the water. And then all the way to the right, you can see the end of what's going to be kind of the 288 shopping center as it transitions to more retail. These are just pictures really of how we can treat the common areas and the green space. This has festoon lighting, a lot of outdoor dining and spaces that might actually be more of a food court type with multiple users that kind of all assemble in a common area. Similar look, and it's kind of funny when you look at that one, it's got kind of a red brick with kind of a white metal Avideck finish to the left. This one gets more to the warmer tones, more the coastal, like Blake was mentioning, just more thematic. And in the back, you can see the office building kind of rising up. This one is more of a office over retail to the left, which is maybe along that main plaza. This would be the back of it, but it would face this more of a hardscape To the left of that would be more the green space look. And then in the back, once again, conference center, hotel, or office building. Once again, just a different look and feel for that, more of a red tone. I don't think you're going to see much of this here because we really want to go a different direction with the tones, as Blake mentioned. So this is kind of a collage of pictures that kind of are representative. They could be a part of the mixed use area, but this is kind of the focused on the WEMU. So, you can see the top left Yard House, which is in City Center right now with an open area in the front. You can kind of see the front of a two-story building, which is probably office over retail with retail at the base. Actually, you're actually entering into a parking garage in the middle of that. To the right, commercial building. And then you can just kind of see all of them have a different character and feel. The one on the left, the middle, is actually Sugarland Town Square that we developed. So you can just see there's a lot of different directions this can go. But the end result is going to be some type of mixed use around a green space that's connected to the other parts of the project, transitionally speaking. So the phasing plan, when you see initial phase, that's based on kind of the uses that have come to us so far. We haven't really even been to market on this. We went to ICSC, Matt Pino, my son Corbin, and Jazz Hamilton, which Jazz Hamilton has been our, let's just say our retail specialist in First Colony for 22 years. He actually has managed the Whole Foods Shopping Center. And they had their first ICSC, which is International Council of Shopping Centers. So this was kind of their small grouping of retailers, but there was a lot of interest in Pearland. They liked the site. Their comment was, hadn't this been tried a couple of times? And they said, well, yeah, but we've got a different vision. We've got a different idea. And so I think the initial phase is going to be more of the high density for sale, single family, and a multi-family project. I think what's going to happen is where we have subsequent phase, we are actively trying to lease a shopping center up there. We're only doing this, a little bit of how utilities and infrastructure are placed in the site, and this is the easiest way to do it because there's already utilities in the street, South Spectrum. There's already utilities in place along what was going to be, currently it's called Promenade, which is the north-south street, which is our westerlymost border. So the street will go in and we'll be able to service that initial phase pretty easily. But the subsequent phase, as well as the area that's around Bass Pro, where you see some of the restaurants for the waterfront dining, we're getting interest from them too. So we're not really sure whether it's 1, 2, 3 all happening at the same time or just one, but that's kind of how these projects work. You've got to gain momentum. You've got to have the anchor. People have to see that it's a real project. You've got to see progress, and you start signing those leases, and then you're kind of getting the market to buy into your plan. So Rob's going to talk about some of the one of the specific parts of our.
Yeah, so we've looked at a wide range of development types representing development over a period of time. And so one of the things we've worked with staff on is setting up a system with minor deviations and major deviations so that we can be able to adapt this plan to development as it comes in. And so the major deviations are, as the term says, major changes that would require essentially going back for a PD amendment. And so those are things that aren't in keeping with the standards in the document. The minor deviations, though, are things that fit within specific criteria that can be handled administratively. And so this table that's in the PD standards, I realize it's hard to see here, hopefully a little bit easier to read on your screen, but it lays out specific standards for changes within the document. And so they fall into several different criteria. The big ones being here is just a 10% numerical standard to specific standards within the PD. So an example of that is, if, for example, if you had the minimum lot area for a commercial, mixed-use commercial lot is 22,500 square feet. We're allowed to do 10% plus or minus there, and someone comes in, a specific user on a site that's 21,000, that would be allowed and could be approved administratively since that's within that 10% deviation. Also, the street alignment and district size, allowing for minor shifts in street alignment as long as the network is maintained, and then a shift in the district size allows for small changes that reflect specific user needs that are still in keeping with the intent of the concept plan and design plan. And then lastly, the street sections, there's built-in variations on there to allow for drop-off or loading areas. For example, if there was specific needs along a specific section of street. And then those last two categories for building depiction and parking depiction allow for specific users to come in where on the design plan now there's generic layouts shown when specific needs or specific users arise, then that that once we get to the site plan phase, it can vary from what's shown in the design plan. This next table shows the difference from what's in your existing zoning, what we're doing for base zoning, which is either townhouse or general business, depending on if it's that residential category or the commercial categories. That text in red is what's in the base zoning, and the black is what's in the PD zoning. So you'll see some of those where it's consistent with base zoning, there's no red text. Essentially, the reason that we had to do a PD and that there's these variations is to allow for denser, more walkable style commercial or residential. And so you'll see, generally speaking, a lot of those are smaller setbacks, meaning the building's closer to the street, or smaller lot sizes. Now, Wendy will talk about administration.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wendy Buckley, and my address is 2950 Bueno Drive, Chapel Hill, Texas. And so to this section, we were talking about administration, and we just want to talk about the key points and administration of the PD. What happens after the documents are done and we start construction and we start having people living and buildings being developed on site. And so within this section that you'll see in Chapter 4, there's a lot of details on the design standards. And again, the goal is to create a vibrant, walkable, and cohesive environment. And there's lots of details in that section specific to building layout, design standards, screening, parking lot, landscaping requirements, and all the things that are going to make every individual project work together and be cohesive. This is just an example of part of the requirements that you'll see within the document is that we want to create consistency, but we also want to allow for brand identity. Each project will have its own look and feel, whether it's a multifamily, single-family district, or a commercial building in the retail, but we want to be able to provide some guide rails to make sure that the overall project looks and feels cohesive. And the way that we're going to do this is through associations. So there will be a residential association and then a commercial association. And the reason that we have two different associations is that the state laws with Texas require that the residential association be turned over to the homeowners after there's a certain number of homes on the ground. And from a long-term perspective, we want the commercial association to be managed long-term and to make sure that we are continuing to actually ensure that the businesses succeed, and we can help do that through this association. So the responsibilities of the association include maintenance of the common areas and to activate the event space, and that would be done both through the residential and the commercial. The commercial association will take the lead, however, in the larger public spaces and the shared spaces. We want to enforce community guidelines. That includes the restrictive covenants as well as our design standards. The associations will also manage shared amenities. That could be pickleball courts, the public trails, and other things that everyone in the community will share. And then one of the challenges of a mixed-use environment are all the needs of different residents. You've got property owners, residents, and commercial tenants, and we want to preserve the integrated vision that makes mixed-use living appealing. And one of the things that we know from our experience in mixed use is that it takes a lot of work to really balance all the needs. And a couple of examples that come to mind. For example, you don't want to do street maintenance in front of the hotel overnight, so things that you learn from experience, and also in our commercial district, something as simple as washing the windows on an office building should not be done during lunchtime when you have restaurants on the first floor. So you have to continually be thinking about how all of the different parts fit together, and that's going to be part of the job of the associations. One of the big items for the commercial association will be our special events. We do have a public plaza that's at the focus in the WEMU district, and it will be very important in order for that association to be responsible for events and public space activation and being able to manage that entire process. We want to generate meaningful traffic, and by that we mean things that meet the goals. It could be community goals, and it also could be meaningful traffic that also helps promote businesses of the retailers. We want to enhance the district's appeal as a premier destination for shopping and entertainment. We want people to come to the Orchard and to be able to enjoy this community, and then also know and be able to participate in supporting our local businesses. We want the Orchard to be a place that people enjoy and feel safe. They belong in this community, and we want to be able to host our different friends within the community that you already know, charities and different community groups, and we want this to be a place that people love to come. And we also want to drive economic vibrancy for member businesses. This is really important. It's a challenge for event programming to produce events that drive business for the stakeholders, and programming on this level requires collaboration with the member businesses, and it requires the ability to adapt our event ideas to generate business or create opportunities for awareness. In the past, we've done this through a few things, such as we've had a dance studio as a tenant, and we created, once a month, we had dance lessons that studio actually led. We've done things also with chef-driven events. The chef of the hotel, as well as the chefs at all the restaurants, participated. So collaboration is going to be a really important part of this, and it creates a great opportunity for awareness and then to drive the success of business for each of the retailers. And then what we also have to be realistic about is that over time the goals are going to change, and there will be a board of directors for each of the associations, and that we'll work with the board to make sure that goals can adapt as we move forward when things need to change. And special events, again, these are specific sections within the PD, but we will produce goals through the partnerships, vendor coordination, and marketing. Again, collaboration is really important in this environment, making sure everyone comes together to work together for our events. We want to make sure that whatever we do has a very, very strong outline for safety, public safety, and then rules that we make sure that we're not disrupting residents and we're following noise ordinances and things of that nature. And then the last item is programming priority will be implemented, which means that while this will be a space that is open to the public and could be leased, specifically the plaza area, the administrator of the event space will have priority for events, and then we expect that we'll be working very closely with the city so that city events, as desired, will take priority. And then the next tier would be renting the plaza for public events outside of that. And so these are just a few images of the beautiful space that we hope to create. You can see that the plaza is in the middle. There's lots of activation and opportunity around the plaza. Again, we want a space that people are utilizing during the day. Hopefully our residents will walk over, people will come down from the office building at lunch, and then the hotel guests also come while they're staying here to enjoy this beautiful space that we create. And then we hope to create events, and these are just a few examples of things that we hope to do here, things like movie nights, wine events where we have restaurants participating, live bands, live music, And then one of my favorite things is this community table where we can engage our restaurants and the hotel staff and all come together for a major event.
Wendy comes from a little experience. So when we were managing Sugarland Town Square, she was hosting 270 events a year. So think about that. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was always something. She was like a crazy person. I mean, I don't know how she did it. But she had to also manage 150 tenants. We had 6 associations, the relationship with the city of Sugarland. I mean, it's a very dynamic, if it's done well, it can become a very dynamic place for the community that touches just about everybody in Pearland and actually impacts the whole region. So we say a day in the life of, because we can talk about all these things, but what does it really mean to a person that's coming to the Orchard? This is actually a town square idea, and so the lady in the middle is actually an employee of the Minute Maid Corporation, who had their world headquarters in Sugarland when we moved them into their building. So she lives in the condos in the top left. So she decided she's going to get a cup of coffee on the way to work, goes to Starbucks, sits down, have a cup of coffee, has her quiet time, and then she walks over to the Minute Maid building, which is directly across the street. Then at 10:15, she had in the conference center right across the street from the Minute Maid Corporation, had a training session. She then left and went to Fish City Grill to have lunch. She forgot she had a birthday party that night, and it's one of her best friends. She had to get something nice, so she went to 2250, an accessory place, which is the bottom middle. And then she decided she was going to have dinner there as well, so she went to the place on the left, which is Rupor. Of course, everybody has to end with ice cream, so she went to Ben Jerry's in the plaza, and then she ended up at her condo. So not that she does this every day, but she has the ability to live, shop, work, and play all in the same place. This is the true definition of mixed use. So how would that work in our project? So when you start looking at where home is located, that's either high-density single family or it's multi-family, and then you can kind of see the hotel conference center, you can see office. So you just, in your mind, you can see walking across, because we're going to have trails that connect everything, walk over to the base of maybe the conference center that has a Starbucks, or actually we're going to have what is called a first cup coffee, I think. So I'm kidding, Pearland activated. And then maybe you are in the office building, and then you go to a conference. And so anyway, you can see what's happening. It's the same application so that people can do everything they need to do here without ever having to get in their car. So what does the future look like here? And a lot of these are slides you've already seen, but once again, picture yourself looking across from what would be Bass Pro. Well, actually, Bass Pro would be to the right, from the parking lot across that's right at the corner of 288 and the Beltway, and looking across with this nice lake with a couple of restaurants on a boardwalk. Behind it to the right, top right, you can kind of see the Conference Center Hotel. Then there's office building in the background, multifamily. And so if you kind of look inside all that, there's that little village that we're creating there. This is from the opposite direction that Wendy was just discussing, which is the central gathering place in the middle, office building bottom left, Conference Center Hotel, water, and then bottom right would be multifamily, and top right would be the retail. So it just all starts actually fitting together. All the little puzzle pieces, they start becoming real as they start to assimilate. This is that same picture that Wendy described, which is, once again, the future is that's you standing there with your family looking across a green space. Where do I want to eat tonight? Do I want to go sit down and have a cup of coffee and relax for a minute and then maybe walk home? So you can just, if you immerse yourself into these pictures, you can start understanding exactly how they work. So these are the townhomes, once again, with the muse going through it. So if you're an empty nester type, or actually talk to somebody that lives in Pearland that said, well, when my child gets out of Arkansas, then I'm going to be headed to here, so you better have a place for me. They live in Shadow Creek Ranch, and he's tired of his house, but he could use a 2,500 square foot townhome and enjoy all the amenities. So once again, this could be the gateway into Pearland. If this all comes together, it's going to go through a lot of changes. It's going to go through a lot of, let's just say, twists and turns with what we have there. But we see this as a vision, and hopefully it becomes a joint vision of Planning and Zoning City Council and the residents of Pearland. And with that, we really appreciate your time and your consideration of our project.
Thank y'all very much. Okay, that brings us to the part of persons wishing to speak for or against this. I don't see anybody moving. I'm going to ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this? Seeing none, that takes us to staff commission discussion. Trey, you want to kick it off?
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you all again for coming back with an even bigger, bolder, cleaner, more up-to-date plan. I think that in light of multiple times to try and develop this, I think that this is obviously, in my opinion, the best vision of what could come next. I think it's got a little bit of everything. As I understand it, the single family homes that would be in phase one would be owned and not rented, which is something that I think everyone at the city, and at least to my knowledge, my colleagues here appreciate. We want ownership in Pearland. I think council wants ownership in Pearland, investing in the city. And I think that it adds a lot of what a lot of community, what is wanted in some communities that they just can't get maybe in the heart of the community. I think it's a great place that lends itself to have some of these things because the space is available, and in downtown or in current built out Pearland, it's just the space just isn't there. I appreciate the phase one approach. Get some houses on the ground and get some costs moving and get some momentum growth. I would just be a little concerned that if I was buying into this vision, that I might be a little hesitant if I didn't see some amenities to go with it. And I'm not talking a huge amount, but if I'm buying a house, okay, there's Bass Pro, but there's not much else, and I've got to get in my car and go to another semi-congested part of the city to complete that. I may see the future, and I see that it's forthcoming, but maybe if phase one included a little bit of retail, something to keep them there, and I know that the market's going to drive that as well, but maybe just a food for thought there. I like the idea of the flex options that you presented. Albeit it's somewhat original, as I'm told, and kind of a first. I do like that as seeing what's available in the market and what may come. And I do like the idea that there's the possibility to change it and manipulate it ever so slightly at a staff level, and not to come back and, I don't want to say waste everyone's time, but make a big hubbub of changing it 7%. That appeals to me, and I think that makes it efficient on everyone's part, and I commend everyone that's worked toward those goals. Other than that, I think this is a really, really good vision for what this can become, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to be in Pearland when this is completed, and hope it's completed sooner rather than later. And could be another good corner and a good cornerstone of our city. So thank you again for bringing it.
Overall, I'm a fan. I do have some questions. What's labeled the flex here, the 5 areas, or I would call them sections. Maybe that's 4, I can't count. They're labeled flex, but that's also the very first thing that you want to come out of the ground with. Could somebody help me understand? I would anticipate that you need flexibility in phases 2, 3, and 4, but they're in the first phase. So help me understand how that works.
So it's really more market driven. I mean, it's a great question, but so let's say that the builders don't come in and buy all the lots at the same time. If you're familiar with home building, they come in and they put a deposit down and they'll take down 30 lots, let's just say, of the 187. Well, if they get in there and then they don't do phase two and you have this only high density single family, what do you do with the land? Then I come back to you and I say, hey, this didn't work. I need to change the use. And so what we would do is pivot to multifamily. Actually, back there along the frontage, you could actually have some retail. You could have things that are more, things that we haven't even thought about yet that would still fit within a mixed use project. And so once again, if it weren't called flex, and we had to change it, which originally it was all high density single family. We didn't have it as flex. And we would have just been stuck with one use back there and it was just gonna be sitting there. So if you have something that's unsuccessful, that's sitting there because it can't be changed, and the city is saying, well, you know, if we had the flexibility and we could put retail, we could create more value, which, you know, drives sales tax and property taxes. It also creates that amenity that you're talking about, because the more and faster this develops, the more of a developed neighborhood that we have. So that's the rationale behind the flex district. Is that
that helps? I guess I'm hearing single family being compact, super compact residential, whatever you want to label it, multifamily. But the flex I thought was either that or retail and or WeMove, I think is what you call that. So you're asking kind of for flexibility. The flex word is just in case market conditions come out and you get some Top Golf, you know, wants to come in and they want to come in dead center. That would, and I know that's a bad example.
Understand.
I get it. I'm just
Sure.
treating something. I passed it up today. That's why I thought of it.
I understand.
That might create a need for flexibility from that standpoint.
Correct.
But otherwise it's going to be some sort of multifamily and or high density residential,
That's correct.
which I would want to say that's probably your least profitable, or least on the profit margin, right? I mean, I don't think this project survives. I don't know what you're paying for the dirt, but I don't think this project survives if you wanted to do the entire thing residential, which is why the commercial need or the retail need and et cetera, et cetera. So, okay.
Well, and let me just go one step further with that. So if you look at that plan that's up right now and you see the the multifamily that's the closest to the green space. See the big wrap product right behind the 288 frontage? Okay, so let's say that doesn't go there and it shifts down more towards South Spectrum, which I think is what's gonna happen. And then the high density single family that's along the future, we're gonna call it Orchard Boulevard, but it's now Promenade, and that doesn't all build out. But you have an office building that's now full, and you'd really like to have that office building across from the green space, so once again, it activates the water and the plaza, and they have a nice view over towards the lake. And then maybe you put a parking garage next to that. It's just, you can pivot, you can move to what really the market tells you is going to be beneficial to you. You've added much more value by that. You've created, instead of 150,000 feet, maybe you have 300,000 feet as a corporate headquarters. So we've had a lot more time to think about this than you, so I appreciate your question, but this gives us the ability to let the project grow, maximize the value, and stay on track so something doesn't just sit there for 5 years and nothing happens.
But I guess my point was, if this is your first phase, you've lost that opportunity if you sell it out to the builders and do multiple, to get velocity, you do multiple property types. Now your office wants to expand and you've already sold that to the residential, which is just more of a comment, not, I mean.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, honestly, rooftops drive retail. I mean, you've probably heard that acumen. And so if we end up with 187 homes right there and some multifamily to the south of that, we're happy as well, because that's going to support the retail. If not, then we're going to be able to do something there, and we'll know that because either the products that they built are not accepted by the market. The market, like 2008, there were some great builders out there that had a lot of lots on the ground, and they just stopped selling. Had nothing to do with the value of the lots and how good the homes were.
Sure.
Just the world changed.
No, it's still changing, right.
Yeah.
If we get those interest rates down,
That'll help.
yes, very much. Did I understand correctly, 400 unit cap, that's multifamily only, doesn't count the single family, correct?
It's 1,100 multifamily cap.
I thought I heard 1,400.
Well, 1,400 includes all the single family as well.
Okay.
'Cause there's live work, not to get into a lot of detail, but there's actually live work units in here. The density of the high density for sale, I mean, it could go to 15. I mean, if they do a lot of the product types that you saw that were more the combined. So the 1,400 is not a cap. That's more of an approximation. The 1,100 is a cap.
Okay, well, from a former sandwich franchisee owner, 1,400 units close to me wouldn't help me survive. I mean,
Sure.
You're going to need drive count and other people to go to all these other things to stop by.
Yep.
And grab a sandwich or something.
And it's really all it does is just activates it. That's all it does. It just provides people there on a 24/7 basis. People are in the plaza. Yeah, it's you're right. It's not going to support the retail.
My biggest concern, just bottom line, is that we've had other developers come in, and let me preface that. I can appreciate everything you guys have put down here, and a lot of work and a lot of thought went into this. I definitely understand that. I watched the other one down the street that was successful over this one. I had a front row seat, and it was amazing to watch. I learned so much from both sites as they tried to come up off the ground. I think you guys have taken it to a completely different level of, and I think you were right. It's market driven. This is completely market driven. These changes with Amazon and some of the other online shopping, I don't think you could fill this thing with typical mall retailers and succeed. I don't think you'd ever get it filled up. Not in 10 trips to the ICSC would you fill this thing up. I don't think. And I believe that one's been tried, and you guys have come back with something completely different. And I sure do welcome this new look. My concern is other developers in town have started out with, hey, we just want to do this multifamily to start out with. We're going to get to the good stuff. Just give us time. You know, it'll happen. And there's one on the northeast corner of Cullen and McHard Road, which is Shadow Creek Parkway going east. They promised us all sorts of retail, and we have one office building that I think is maybe half full, small at that, 2-story, and we have, 300 to 400 multifamily units. It never happened. And just to the south of you, we have the urban style product, beautiful product. Suba, I think, is the developer.
That's right.
They did a wonderful job there. To the south, I think they're putting in some townhomes, I believe. But the office product they committed and all the other things, I mean, I get it. Office is tough in today's environment. After COVID, last thing you wanted to be during COVID was an office building owner or property manager, right? But my biggest concern when I saw this plan and visited with staff, and staff did a great job of giving me a good understanding of what's happening here, but it still goes back to, and I'm just afraid you guys will shut the lights out on me. Wouldn't be the first time. Here we go. But but that you guys would develop the not single family, the
Multifamily.
multifamily and/or high-density residential, and then economics don't work out, market changes, and here we are. And at some point, I sure would like to have some sort of assurance that wouldn't happen. And we can talk about it all day long. Oh, it's never going to happen. There's 2 examples we have. So just, I appreciate everything. I have a big, long list of things to talk about. I won't waste everybody's time. But that's my biggest concern, and I don't know a way around that. I'm still going to vote yes, so you don't have to give me a big speech about it or anything. But it's my biggest concern, and I think that'll probably be council's biggest concern as well. And by the way, one last little thing. The PD, I meant to address this, the PD to the south, I think they called it PUD when they got passed in 2005 or 6, the Pearland Town Center. It was so stringent that they've had to come back to us at least a dozen times, if not 20 times, to work this little kink out or that little kink out. So flexibility to me is fantastic. The 10% variance, when I was meeting with staff, in fact, I had thrown it out there before they said it, that exact number. That's what Shadow Creek Ranch had in their PD or PUD back then, was a 10% variance without having to come back to the city, and that was in uses. I think you've got some other variances that you can have, but I welcome that. And in fact, one last comment there on that. Their PD was so tight, and it had to follow our rules. When they sold off a pod, they had to do a flag lot, and then they had to do this other one was a flag lot. We called it jokingly a spaghetti bowl to meet the city's code. It tells me our code doesn't meet the needs of a development like this. So flexibility is a necessity, in my opinion, to get something like this done. So I appreciate, hats off to you guys, all of you, for a great presentation and for a great project.
So if I can respond to one thing. So the one thing that's unique about this project than all the others you mentioned is the Conference Center Hotel. It's going to be one of those things that we have 4 projects that we're emulating, which is our project in Town Square, which the first phase of that, when the city agreed to do the project with us and they provided incentives, they said, we want a full service hotel with a conference center, we want City Hall, and we want a park. So those were the 4 components. The second one is City Center. They started with the Stella, which is now the Moran Hotel, the Norris Conference Center, shared parking garage, and an office building, the Woodlands. They started with a full-service Marriott hotel, a shared parking garage with an office, and now they have a 100,000 square foot conference center. Springwoods was the same thing. So the common element, and it's a risk for the city, but it's calculated. We've got a lot of numbers that we can share with you at the right time as to how it's worked, but that's the difference. If you take the conference center out of this project, Plan B doesn't look really pretty. So I'm just telling you, we've designed this from the very beginning with the Conference Center Hotel. We've made the case as to why that's so critically important. And so that's, when you just listed the differentiators, that's the differentiator here.
I'm sorry, I was going to be quiet, but now that you brought that up, who the city is going to be responsible for that conference center, or it's a joint partnership, or?
It's a private, but I'm looking over at Matt over here, and probably it's best not to get into the details of this right now. Would you agree with that? I mean.
Yeah, correct. At this time, we don't have those details.
Okay. My only cautionary statement there is, we held the other group, and I'm gonna say things that I shouldn't say it in a way I shouldn't say it. So pardon the way I say it, but the point is, the Pearland Town Center had 8 or 10 acres in the back, 12 acres, 13 acres, surrounded by the detention pond, and the city wanted an event center there or some sort of center there, and it sat empty. That spot sat empty for years and years and years until this past, in 2025, we passed, and the city council blessed, a multifamily project. And I don't want to see any project ever held hostage. And that's the bad word, but bad phrase. But I'd hate for you guys to be held hostage if this is your centerpiece. I just wonder if we're getting the cart before the horse here. And the last thing I'll say is office. 2005-ish, I believe the EDC, even before Matt was here, created a document regarding I believe it was office space or use in Pearland compared to other cities. What I learned from that is that Katy and Sugar Land had 50 times, that's an exaggeration, probably 20 times the amount of office space Pearland had. And we've never had that office space. I've always wondered why that is, except, we're a commuter city at that point. Everybody wakes up and goes to work somewhere else. I know the things Matt's doing have changed a lot of that with properties just to the west of you, but I still think overall, we commute to work. So would love to see some office, would love to see a second one, would love to see you go 10 stories tall if that was possible. So that's it.
Hey, quick question for the city. When we met last week, didn't we talk about on the initial phase, if we were doing rooftops first, we were going to do 20,000 square foot commercial or retail space with that, so that it wasn't just.
So the PD calls out currently, depending on how they build the initial phase out, if it ends up becoming all high density single family, they'd have to do 20,000 square foot. And then I believe if they put another multifamily unit in the initial phase, they'd have to do 20,000 square foot.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, Trey, that you knew that there would be some commercial space with that. So I thought it was a great presentation. I'm all for it. I love the idea that we're going to get some Class A space that we've never had. That's needed. I love the idea of some corporate headquarters moving in. I love the walkability. I think it's a great use of the land.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. So this is right up my alley. I do a lot of long-range planning for communities and teach urban design. So I had fun looking at this one. And I'm all for development here. I think this area has sat vacant for a long time, and I've always wondered, since it is the gateway to the city and great visibility in frontage, why it hasn't taken off. So I'm looking forward to this development. A couple of things I would mention from kind of design plan perspective is, I wouldn't want to see any garages facing 288 on any of those residential products. You have the alley and the backloaded, so just making sure that we don't see any garages from 288. There are some streets, and I'm assuming, I saw that there's some alignment deviation allowed in the PD. And so when some of these streets are laid out, especially in this residential area, there's some jogs in there, just making sure that we kind of clean that up some, kind of reduce some vehicular conflicts and things of that nature. One thing about the Pearland Town Center, I think it has a lot of challenges when you look at those sight lines and having to peep around the corner and things like that. So I want to make sure that we have some good visibility in this development. Also making sure that the development that's just south of Promenade Shops Drive is well connected. I see there's a trail connection there, but just making sure it doesn't seem like it's off by itself. Making sure that connectivity is pretty good. Not crazy about the big box, I think you call it traditional kind of retail commercial off of the Service Drive. I don't know at the time of development if we can, maybe massage that a little bit. I see a couple of pad sites there. I wouldn't want to see any drive-throughs there. I think this development should be different and unique. especially as the gateway into the community. We don't want to see what they're doing down there in Manville Town Center. We think we need to be a little bit different. One thing I wanted to also bring up is the festival street typology that runs in front of the hotel. It would be good to see that same typology between the hotel and that open space, green space area there. Especially if you have a conference center and you have hotel guests there going across that street. And I know it may not be a heavily vehicular road, but if that could be that festival topology, I think that would kind of create that space and just making sure that that's a pedestrian realm there. The parking, the multifamily parking garages, are those just for residents, or will it be any shared parking for the commercial, maybe more so the one that's closer to 288?
So we've actually looked at this. City Center has done this, and it's traditionally the wrap products are private garages for their own residents because they're gated. But when you have an area like that that is that concentrated, then we're looking at how we might be able to do some sharing in the bigger, larger parking garage to reduce the number of spaces that they have. We don't have this worked out yet, but that's a great question because we need more parking that supports the central core. We're going to look at we've actually got a traffic consultant that's all they do is design garages and looking at the different uses we have and how can public parking work. In Town Square, we have parking condominiums. So we have shared parking. They're not private garages. They're shared parking garages, but they support all the uses. In that one, the condos actually have a private garage. So that's different than what you're saying. But I think with parking, the way it's going right now and the less demand for parking, I think you're going to have opportunities to do things a little differently. So we're not there yet, but we're going to be studying that.
Okay. Just a couple of more comments. I wouldn't skimp on the open and green space and just the overall development. I think that's what would set this development apart, like you've all have mentioned. Again, using a Pearland Town Center. I have an office there, so I'm not really talking about it much, but there's no green space and it's a lot of hardscape and makes it a little bit more difficult for people to want to get out and explore that area. So I'd like to make sure that we kind of maintain the green and open space somewhat like we have here in the conceptual plan. I had one other comment I can't remember at the moment, but I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Hendricks here. I want to say I love the product. There's just a few things I want to add. One, I think a Lifetime Fitness would be ideal here. I'm not sure if you talked to them, but they should know that Pearland residents would love to have them. And then unique restaurant experiences. I'm not sure who would go here, but things like, and I don't know that it would be a Toco Madera, something that brings like an experience that might be cool there. The Hotel Conference Center having a really nice spa, I suppose, would be key. I don't know who would be having conferences there, but most of the really, really nice conferences, business-wise, that I think of, because I'm not sure if this is big enough to host sports events. Is it big enough to host volleyball or basketball, or is it just more business?
Well, so I don't know if I'm supposed to get into this, but I guess I can respond. So if you liken it to what we did in Town Square, then it's 25,000 square feet. It's not really meant to be for athletic events. It's more corporate, but it has a lot of, which is the bigger piece of this for the conference center here is, and I don't think people think of it that much, but all the charitable events, all the people, the foundations that they drive right past that site and go into Houston to downtown and they go to a nice hotel there. This can seat 800 to 1,300 people, which I'm using the example. And so all of those groups that are paying $200 a person for these nice dinners to raise money, all that money is leaving Sugarland. Now it all stays. And there's probably, I don't know how many, Wendy, do we have? 30 events a year. and weddings, a lot of different things that happen there other than just the corporate users. And there needs to be a balance, because if it's a corporate business center, then you've got enough room for the corporate headquarters that will be attracted by having a conference center hotel. So it's not really meant to be for sports, is what I'm going to say. Could it be converted for single? I mean, I guess it could be. I don't think have we ever done that, Wendy, in ours? I don't think we've ever done that. No. So that's
No, it's fine. I was just curious because I think corporate events, I think like JW Marriott type style, where they have really nice facilities inside their hotel conference. And then, let's see, office space, like the single executive suites in some of the office space. Are y'all planning on having some of that, or is that more developer decision?
Don't know yet. That's
okay.
It's certainly something that's become a lot more popular. Do I need to push a button over here? No. It's become a lot more popular. I mean, the Regis and there's like 4 or 5 that are the ones that do a really good job with that. They used to kind of be something that would fill office space that hasn't leased, but it's a totally different look at that. I mean, it provides amenities. It's a business center. I mean, it's actually desirable to have it in an office building. And so I think we would definitely look at that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yep.
Especially for small businesses that are expanding, maybe want to expand to Pearland and they don't want to go out and buy a big office space. And then who are the developers you were looking at for the multifamily projects? Because these are obviously, they look very nice. So who are you leaning towards that might be interested in developing these?
I can't really say right now, but I'm just going to tell you, they're the best in Houston. I mean, they have high rise, they're in Boulevard Place. I mean, they have 16 stories. These are family run companies that have been in the business for 50 to 60 years that have the nice units. And when I'm at liberty to talk about it, I'm happy to maybe do it offline. I can tell you who those people are. Okay. But they're not the guys that are going to cut their teeth on developing a multifamily unit. And we have 4 of them. So it's like we have our choice of the best.
Okay. And then lastly, I know I've said this before in the meetings we've had before, is safety, because we are down the road from a pretty dangerous area of Houston, and we definitely want to make sure. I know the citizens of Pearland, some of them that are in Pearland tend to traffic towards Baybrook for that reason, but I think if you make this area ultra safe and have a strong police presence or private police presence, that would be very ideal for this, because the minute crime starts breaking out, they're not going, no matter how nice the shops are. And I want to see this succeed and be successful. And so that would be my biggest recommendation, is making sure that safety is, we're doing something to deter that type of crime. So that's it.
So in Sugar Land, can I respond to that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So in Sugar Land, basically it was the mall plus Town Square plus the Marketed Town Center. We had 300 acres that created the first colony management district. And the problem was the city of Sugar Land was watching what was happening in, Greens Point, thank you. And they didn't want that to happen there. So we created a management district that provides private patrol that's connected to the City of Sugar Land Police Department. They have license plate recognition. So we have 24/7 patrols that patrol all the first level and garages. And so we would love to work with, we've already talked about this a little bit, the management district that exists, because I think it has the powers to provide security and do something very similar to here, because we need a presence quickly. We need to basically establish that if you're going to come here to do crime, you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can do that and have a strong presence up front, it's key to the entire project. Because to your point, if someone gets robbed, which is going to happen, but I'm just saying all of a sudden it becomes a common occurrence, people aren't going to come here. So that can't happen. But I've got faith in these guys that they're going to be able to help make that happen. So
yeah, and our police force here in Pearland is excellent. But it's the people that think they're still in city the city of Houston, which they think they get away with crime all day long and nothing's going to happen. And it's true, but they don't realize they're in Pearland. So I think just making sure that people that are entering into the property know that, hey, your license plate, it's been recorded. We know who you are, or we can find out who you are. So yeah, I think security is going to be number one. That's
Agree.
it.
Don, thank you so much for coming out with this vision.
You're welcome.
This basically is the first thing people will see when they come into Pearland from the Beltway or South Freeway. And I think the overall plan is very good. There's a couple of concerns I have, and that is multifamily, rental apartments. And if you'll pull up your Exhibit E on your design plan, I see that 07 is your multifamily. See, 08 is your high-density single family. And with this, primarily, if my eyes are seeing what I need to see, there's already 2 places where you have 07 for your multifamily. Your 08, I think I counted 3 spaces for high-density single family, which that would be your true townhomes, and I'm okay with that. I would like to see more of that, if not less. I'd like to see less apartments, multifamily. We have Ivy just south of you, and Ivy 2, which will be age-restricted condos. I believe that's been approved. Construction hadn't started. And so that gives me a little heartburn to give flex that can be more multifamily. Your flex, if you would extract out the possibility of multifamily and let it be high density, single family, I'm okay with that, with the restriction. So I know you said you have the 1,400 units. Well, if you use the 10% deviation, that's gonna take you right up to 1,500 and a half.
It's only 1,100.
Okay.
The 1,400 includes the high density, so it's only 1,100 cap for multifamily.
Okay. So, well, 1,500 multifamily, single family cap of total rooftops is how I was envisioning. I took the 1,400, and I've heard you say 1,400, and so I understand it's 1,100, but then 1,400. That's kind of saying two things with saying one. So
Yes,
which
so-
is it 1,100 total rooftops or capacity, or is it 1,400 and 1,100 multifamily?
It's 1,100 capped multifamily. There's no cap on the high density single family.
Okay.
So just real quick, Commissioner Eccles. So there is a 400 unit cap on the single family single family product. And there is 1,100, but the 1,100 cannot change, so they can't use the 10% deviations on that.
Okay, that gives me a little bit more piece there. So, can you limit on the flex your multifamily, the apartment building? Would that be a possibility to, if you're capped and you already have 2 designations of 07, that you can get your 1,100 fulfilled? Why would you even need or have the possibility of using another area of flex or multifamily when you already have the 2 there?
So let me ask, so what is your concern with multifamily?
Well, I will tell you, if you are going to fill this with an apartment, this chamber will be full of people in opposition of apartments.
I agree.
And so that's where my heartburn is.
Sure. We have a cap on it, I guess is what I'm saying. And the type of multifamily that we have here is not garden. I mean, it's not, let me put it this way. We've been through this for 20 years in Sugar Land. And the people that started had the same arguments. They didn't want what was in Southwest Houston. I don't want it either. Those are low rent apartments. They have no amenities. They're about 30 years old. What we're talking about, I mean, if I showed you a palette of building materials that were in these multifamily units, I mean, these are $2,000 to $2,200 per multifamily on a monthly basis. They have dog parks. They have more amenities than subdivisions. So I agree with you. There are types of multifamily I don't want, but I would love to have these multifamily units, which we have to have in this project to support young professionals. The ones in City Center, they use empty nesters going there because they can walk out and have all these amenities. It's safe. It's just a different type of multifamily than what people are used to. And I don't know so I don't mean to say that. I don't know your background with your understanding of the kind of multifamily we're talking about, but I don't want anything in this project that's going to negatively impact the rest of the project. I see those as being accretive. I see those as adding value. They're the kind of people that can shop in these stores and these restaurants. They're people that my son or my daughter, I would love for them to live in these units because I think it's a great place for them to live. They got to go somewhere. They get out of school, they can't buy a home. So they've got to go somewhere. I'd rather them go in a nice multifamily project that's safe in a highly amenitized area. So I can, and I get it. Some people just don't like multifamily, period. But I can defend these multifamily units because it's a much higher level. It's going to add to the overall project, and it's going to be a positive, and it's going to bring people that I want to come to this project and shop and dine. So I don't know if that helps or not, but we need that in our project and in that area.
And I understand that. It's not that I'm in disagreement with that. It's just I'm having heartburn giving you 6 partials of flex that can be, you have a cap of 1,100, but instead of having 2 nice places, like you were saying, $550 a piece, then what, if you do 3 with 300, you're over the cap, but at the same time, we understand deviations happen. You have to go back to the drawing board. And I just understand, not only myself, but there's other constituents that will have a difficulty just giving a developer an open checkbook to just say, well, if we want this, we can put this. If we want this, we can put this. If we want this, we can put this, where there's no restraint. And that's just where I have a little heartburn. So,
but we're limited.
Understand.
Tommy, maybe this will help. What if 7 became a Lifetime Fitness and now they moved the multifamily to Section 8? That could be the flex, right? Is what you're talking about? You just
can go anywhere in there, right?
Okay.
Right. That's because maybe somebody else that does like the Lifetime, they want to go there. He has the option to move it. I think that's what he means.
Which I do not have a problem with the flex overall. I have a problem with having more development there than we're all comfortable with. So that it's just a problem. I'm going to be voting for the project.
No, I understand.
I mean,
and I appreciate your question. I really do.
Have a little heartburn there. But now then, I'm going to give you an easy question. So you developed Sugar Land. I know you had lessons learned. Give us your greatest lessons learned from that development that you can bring to this development that would bring peace to our constituents, our citizens?
I'm kind of starting out with a negative with the multifamily, but I'll get past that. So I think what we learned is, and I talked about it a lot, is community engagement. I think we did a really good job of whenever we built a shopping center, we had this area that, say, was an area that hadn't been developed yet. And it had a sign that said commercial reserve coming soon. And they said, oh, what do you mean you're going to put a Kroger shopping center there? I never knew that. Well, it was posted and we told them, but we went to them and we said, so you're living right behind this shopping center. So what would you like to see that could make this better? Well, you know, can you put a brake on the back of a shopping center? Sure, we'll do that for you. You want us to add trees back here? I think the point is, the lesson learned is the more you listen to your constituents. That's why I'm listening to you with multifamily. And I can go back and show you where we spent 18 months understanding. We knew more about from a safety to traffic to how it impacted the school district to the type of, but we went through this exhaustive study. And the planning, I'm just telling you that one, they went from being totally opposed to it to totally in favor because they just said, oh, we didn't, I'm not saying you did, but I'm saying we didn't understand what it really did to add to the community, and it's not what we thought it was. So I don't know if community engagement is everything. I think we learned a lot about saving your best piece of property for last. We actually ended up doing that, but we were suspect because we saved the best corner for last. And so I think the more in this project you build from back to front and you create the highest and best value as you get to the corner, you haven't really sacrificed your best piece of property because you needed to make a land sale first. You were cognizant of how it impacted the overall. I don't know how I'm doing here, but I mean, we learned a lot, and we know the mistakes we made too. And I think that's what we bring, as much as the good things or the bad things that we maybe did. I mean, we had too much red brick. I know that sounds funny, but we used to have an architectural control review board that they would say, what color red brick would you want? And it's like, what? I mean, we just were so restrictive. We didn't give anybody a chance to have a great trade dress and have some individualism and have a nice storefront. The signage was either black or white. I mean, you drive out there today and all the centers except for Town Square are black or white signage. We've learned from that because retailers today want to have a storefront. They want to have individuality. You need to have guardrails and great rules and policies that go with that. But we need to allow them their ability to be individual, and they're going to come to your community a lot more if you allow them that. Those are just probably 3 examples, but I'm happy I'll give you my business card. We can go to lunch. I'm happy to talk to you about those kinds of things because I love sharing that with people.
Don, thank you so very much. Appreciate your time, appreciate your efforts. And we're looking forward to seeing what will happen in the city of Pearland on that corner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just had one follow-up. It was right after Henry's comments. It's an easy one, and it's just to help us understand what y'all's mentality is regarding the flex. So you mentioned that if something doesn't work, you'll kind of transition to something else. Great. I love that concept because it's completely market-driven such that it fills the space. My question, therefore, is, and I know y'all have thought about it, how do you maintain continuity? That's not the best word. Neither is homogeneity or homogeneous, I guess, would be, because you have the single family high density where it is. Well, if one corner doesn't pan out and you move to the next one and you move something else in, do you fear that, and how would you offset that to not get these kind of tidbits of things in there, right? I know you're going to pivot, but just maybe if you could expound a little bit on that for us, because I think that would kind of help. I'm sold on the flex. Again, I understand where you're coming from, but yeah, how would you kind of combat that as you saw that coming?
So I think in working with Blake and his team, we like transitional elements. It could be a green space that would divide the residential from maybe commercial. So it creates a little bit more green, so you're not right on top of each other. I think that we've kind of looked at what would be the worst thing that happens is if we had 4 different uses in there. Because if you think about the guys, I mean, those families that are coming in here, they're coming in here knowing it's mixed use. They're coming in here, they don't want a traditional subdivision anymore. They want the amenities. They want to be able to walk. They understand there's multifamily across the street. There's an office building next door. There's retail that I can walk to. So I think if it was a single family neighborhood and all of a sudden we made the decision we're going to change it completely and put retail right here, we wouldn't do that. That's one of the things in First Colony. We did a really good job of having transitional elements between uses. And so I think we would pay attention to that here. But I think you can still, based on what we're showing these residents when they buy here, all these components are going to be here and they could be next to you. Is that a problem? And they're going to make a buying decision based on, I don't mind walking to a retail store that's right next door to where my home is. In fact, I encourage it. I'd like to go have a cup of coffee over there. I don't know if this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much.
I promise I just have one comment.
It's okay.
Multifamily. This isn't Pearland School District. It's not Alvin School District. It's HISD. I don't anticipate you're going to have a lot of 3 bedrooms. It's going to be this is going to be your single family, your professional that's going to move into here. I think you've made that comment. Young professionals will come in here. And I also think, my understanding is these are going to be urban style. You got the garage showing there. It's not going to be your garden style. So some of the issues you have with garden style are not going to be here because they're going to be single professional. HISD is going to not allow a lot of people with kids. You're going to have young professionals, and they're going to be first class rather than what older people, us gray hairs, think of apartments. This isn't going to be that apartment. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct.
And we have a cap, so good.
So there's 3 answers to that, at least 2, maybe 3. But so one of them is that when we did that same product in Lake Point, we have 375 of those type of homes, garden homes, brownstone townhomes. 15% of those people have kids. Very few of those people actually have, number one. Number 2, they can actually go to Pearland schools from here because they have an open campus. I mean, that was a concern of some of the builders. Maybe it's a little bit limited in certain areas, but the elementary school that would serve this is in close proximity. But that was a huge issue. But to your point, but we've overcome that. In fact, I was in the chamber meeting, and the Pearland ISD superintendent of schools is on that board, and I asked him point blank, so you're sure that and he said yes, absolutely.
And then real quick, Commissioner Fortes, the PD does limit number of 3-bedroom units to 5%.
We don't, the apartment developers they don't really want 3 bedrooms. They're more 1 and 2 bedrooms is what they're really going for. So, could have a couple, but not many.
Well, I finally get my time. They've already asked all the questions. We beat this thing up from every direction that we can. Y'all's reputation precedes you. I see nothing. Y'all are going to manage this property and stuff. And y'all are not wanting it to fail, so I don't think that it will fail. I feel like that this is the first time that we've really got a chance of actually having something on that corner go in. I've been here long enough that I listened to the other things that were always promised us and stuff, and it was always pie in the sky. This here, I don't know how Matt feels about it, but I think it's probably one of the most premier things that we've had hit this city, and I don't know if he drew you to us or if y'all come down, but whatever the reason being, I applaud it. So I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. Can I add one thing? Can I do that, or is it vote?
Go ahead. Go.
Well, I just want to say that when we tell you we're going to try to do something, we're going to do just that. I mean, we have a track record of not trying to put something out there that's not realistic, that is not something that we don't think we can do. At the same time, we're not magicians. I mean, there are going to be problems. There are going to be delays. Unfortunately, that's the nature of mixed use. This is the most difficult. It has the highest level of success of literally any project. But where it can be successful is when all those things work together. So our goal is to create those items that work well together and have those anchors in place, which it doesn't ensure 100% success, but it gives you a high probability of being successful. So I don't want anybody leaving here saying this is going to be a magic and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be
we understand that
and problem. So anyway, I appreciate your time very much and your confidence in us.
Well, we appreciate the presentation, and I apologize that it took us 2 hours to get it done. Okay, I still got a little business to do here. All right, our next, first thing that we're going to have is our City Council update report.
Thank you, Chair. The last City Council meeting was held on February 23rd, and we had 3 conditional use permits on the agenda. The first was CUP 2025-0571 for the accessory dwelling unit in the R1 zoning district on Dublin Circle, and that case failed with a vote of 3-4. Next was CUP 2025-0574 for an auto repair in the Old Town General Business District on Main Street, and that was a success with a vote of 7-0. And then finally, we had conditional use permit CUP 2025-0572 for the resale consignment shop in the BP 288 zoning district on Business Center, and that failed with a vote of 0-7.
Okay, thank you. I see that we have a City Council special meeting. It's a CIP update series on March the 23rd. From 4 to 6. Is there anyone that knows they're going to miss that meeting? Okay. Then our next P&Z meeting, this is a little bit different, I guess, because of spring break and stuff, but our next P&Z meeting is not until March the 30th, 2026 at 6:30. Anybody already know? So, all righty. I look forward to seeing everybody, and we adjourn this meeting at let me see if I can, 8:28.